So close. Now we're live. Hey, folks. Thanks for tuning to the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, here to do an almost spontaneous Wandavision centric episode. We present our panel. Below me, we have Evan, charming fellow who hosts the Weeknight Hero Podcast. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Hello to everyone.
Hey. Over here on this side, I have Jacob Blackman, star of stage and screen. How you doing, sir?
I haven't been on any stage and screen that I'm aware of.
I should have said freelance RPG artist and cartographer, as well as making He-Man action figure comics. So
that I have done.
Yeah,
really cool.
And directly below Jacob is Mr. Jason Tondro from Paizo. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, thanks.
I appreciate you showing up, Jason. I know it's you're a busy man in the Starfinder mines, so appreciate making some time for us.
Hey, it's my night off, so.
Oh, okay, cool. How are the dogs?
The dogs are asleep.
Okay.
Sleeping dog is a happy dog.
Yeah, well, we'll keep it quiet then. That's cool. All right.
No such promises.
Fair enough. So, Wandavision. Let me just start by saying something horrible. I didn't like the first 2 or 3 episodes. I really enjoy black and white old sitcoms. I grew up watching Bewitched and Father Knows Best and We Leave It to Beaver. But I just felt a little bit like that went an awful long way. What do you guys think? Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, we watch a lot of I Love Lucy. I know we didn't get a whole ton of it in the first 2 episodes, but I think it was right in committing to the bit, as it were. Like, I think you needed at least 1 or 2 episodes of semi-normalness in order to fully get encapsulated into the concept of Wanda controls everything. And it also kind of subtly introduced a lot more of the horror concept to it. I think that's why they released the first 2 episodes at the same time, because 2 weeks of what is essentially no plot kind of would kill the momentum, I think.
Structurally, this series is pretty simple. It's 9 episodes. So you've got a 3-episode intro, right? 3-episode act 1. Then it all blows open in episode 4. And everyone was like, holy shit, I got to watch this show now, right? It grabbed everybody. And now it's setting up, they're going to blow our minds for the conclusion in episodes 7 through 9. A friend of mine was like, I wish they had released the entire series all at once, or they should have released the first 4 episodes. That's exactly that feeling where you're like, I can't wait for the next. That's exactly what they want you to feel, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to weekly television again. We've all been spoiled by binging. We all love it. But The Mandalorian was Disney Plus's first show like this, where they did 1 episode a week, every week. And that made everybody talk about Baby Yoda for 2 months. These people are not stupid. It worked. And so I'm in for it. I like we were all talking about before the show started. I've been a Scarlet Witch fan since I was 6. One of my very she was the first female superhero I ever knew about. One of my first comics was a Marvel team up with Vision and the Scarlet Witch, and they go back to the Salem witch trials. And so I'm the perfect audience for those first 3 episodes. Because, it was okay, where's the plot? But it's Scarlet Witch and Vision, man. Come on. It's a half an hour. Of course I'm going to watch it. I had no complaints.
Jacob, what do you think?
I have been impressed with the thing from the start. Unlike a lot of people, I liked the first several episodes, especially for the genre emulation. That first episode, House, is a direct replica of the classic Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah,
which was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've been getting the genre emulation just perfect for each of the eras, and it makes you, like Jason said, it makes you want to find out, why is this happening? What's going on? And as they've been unfolding, it has been amazing. And I love all the little callbacks to everything that we've seen in the history, even with the individual characters, like, you know, Agent Wu's magic trick from that when you first see him, because he learned it from Ant-Man, and, you know, Darcy and all her little equipment that she picked up from being the student of Jane Foster, and all of this has just been a wonderful callback to everything we've been watching for the last 10, 12 years.
I want Wu to use his card trick to save the day at the end, like the vanishing pig trick from Willow. Right? He's like, let me show you some real magic, right? Like, and it's just enough to distract the bad guy or something. Yeah. Totally.
So if we were to call this Marvel's Twin Peaks, is that too much, or you think that's fair?
I would like to think they have this planned, unlike Twin Peaks.
No one plans those big mystery shows. Look at the X-Files.
That was the problem with Twin Peaks, is there was no plan. They just threw a whole bunch of mysterious stuff at you, just like Lost. There was no plan.
Just like Lost, just like Game of Thrones, just like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah,
I could keep going. Wow, that's depressing.
I want to talk. I don't want to hog up the show. Evan, what do you think?
Well, I did get lost for a quick second because I think Twin Peaks was out when I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
Oh, God bless
so
you.
I'm aware of it through pop culture, but like overall, I just think the episodic nature keeps it in people's minds more. I know I've seen that a lot when people discuss the episode, and it just, I've never been like binging a show. It just all comes out and I have a million feelings about it, and then I forget about it and I move on to the next one. So I love the slow burn. I love the slow burn a whole lot, and just the commitment to Marvel doing its continued like collaborative storytelling, because none of these characters are original to WandaVision, other than Monica, but all of the stories still progress in a way that, like, I remembered, I had forgotten about Darcy from when I had seen Thor: The Dark World years ago, and you're like, oh yeah, that's, I do wonder what she would be doing. And that's something I feel like Marvel does really, really well, because even when these characters aren't in the mainline story of whichever brand they're in, there's still stories being told and they've still progressed in their world. So I really, really like it. I think that the whole committing to the comedy and then also darker aspects really grows the concept a lot more. Because I remember a couple of years ago where the only talk about Marvel shows, movies, any of their material is that they do the exact same thing over and over again, and the villains are a shadow of the heroes. And now I don't really hear that anymore, for good reason, because we've expanded beyond just a punchy action movie to doing more interesting concepts that people who solely watch the movies and TV shows probably wouldn't have given like a second thought to previously.
So can I jump in here?
Mm-hmm.
So first off, I agree with you. I have to correct you about Monica though, because of course we had met Monica before, right?
You're right.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. And I think that this is something that we also saw with Star Trek, that when CBS figured out that they had to have Star Trek coming out every week of the year, or else people would unsubscribe from their service, right? Like if there's not a Star Trek episode coming out, then why would you ever pay for CBS All Access or Paramount Plus? It's about to be. As soon as they realized that, they realized they had to have Star Trek 52 weeks of the year. Well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to fill that time? And the answer is not to make 52 episodes that are all the same. But to now we're going to make niche shows. We're going to make shows that aren't designed to appeal to every Star Trek fan. Or in the case of WandaVision, every Marvel Universe fan. Mm-hmm. There are people out there that aren't going to like that show. Or they're not going to like Winter Soldier and the Falcon, which is like a huge bro show, right? Like that. Yeah. Anyone who watches the ads, like, okay, these shows are aimed at smaller audiences now. And you're absolutely right, Evan. It's a shift from the movies, which are designed to grab as big of an audience as possible, right? Because it costs us hundreds of millions of dollars to make this movie. So we need to shoot for that $1 billion opening weekend or whatever. But here, the budget's smaller, the audience is different, and they're thinking long-term in terms of filling content on a subscription model service. It's not about the $1 billion opening weekend. It's about, can we keep you paying for this service week after week, month after month for the next 10 years, right? And so we get WandaVision, which is a television show about television shows, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like asking a graduate student to write about his dissertation. You get a bunch of writers in that room who all grew up on television sitcoms, and then you ask them to write about television sitcoms. Like, they're just writing what they love, right? Mm-hmm. And then they bring in all these superhero elements. We've often described Marvel Cinematic Universe as some other kind of movie genre, which they just put superheroes in it, right? So, like, Winter Soldier is a Robert Redford 70s spy drama, except with Captain America in it, right? Mm-hmm. And WandaVision is this combination of, like, sitcoms, but also that Twin Peaks kind of weird plot-driven mystery show, like Lost, which Jacob brought up, which I think is another great comparison. And then it's got superheroes in it, right? It's got Wanda and Vision and all these other characters in it. It's not designed to appeal to everybody. It's designed to appeal to people that maybe wouldn't go and watch the movies, or they went because their boyfriends went. But they weren't into it, but now we got a show about families in a domestic situation. The show takes place inside the house most of the time, and it's a different kind of show and to different kinds of people. I think it's brave, honestly. That's one of the reasons why I like the show, because I think it was gutsy.
Is it doing what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. never managed to do?
Oh, absolutely. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., while I personally felt was a wonderful show, didn't really capture the spirit of the MCU universe. It was certainly a comic book and or superhero show, but I didn't think it felt like it was part of the superhero universe like they were trying to do. There were a few exceptions to that, like the episode where they brought in Ghost Rider or another character, and those were amazing episodes. Yeah. But those episodes were few and far between.
Yeah, you had that big Winter Soldier tie-in, right? When the Helicarrier shows up and Fury is in the episode and everything. Yeah,
the season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was the first season, by the way, that spoiled itself and both the Captain America and Winter Soldier and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spoiled the other for what was going on.
Yes, yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of an attempt to do Marvel Universe on a budget, and it was kind of an action show, police procedural, kind of superhero thing.
I remember the pilot episode when they had a flying car that flew away at exactly the same height as a car would drive away. I was like, oh, okay.
They used that car a couple other times in the show for actual flying purposes.
What was the car's name?
Lola.
Lola. It was a fun show. It was more like the others, like the CW superhero shows than anything else. It was kind of in that kind of ballpark. For a superhero show, it was pretty tame. It wasn't as brave as WandaVision is. I think.
Now, quick question. I hadn't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I did see all of the like street level Marvel Netflix shows that it
Yeah.
was it similar to that where
No,
it's
not at all.
Yeah, it was more like a cop show. You know, like they were kind of like they were basically cops catching bad guys, and there was always a big like kind of meta season plot. That it was tied into the Marvel universe, but it was all kind of on the down low because the cinematic people didn't want to incorporate anything from the TV show. They didn't want to make a writer or a big name director have to do any of that. It's hard to hire somebody to make Iron Man 3 or Captain America, whatever, and tell them, well, you have to include a character from this television show. And they're like, nah, that's bullshit. I don't want to do that, right? It's slumming.
Well, also, that was right when they had the big split between Marvel and Marvel Cinematic.
Yeah.
So behind scene politics. But yeah, I mean, basically NCIS or CSI or Bones, those kind of shows with a lovable team of quirky people, but with superhero elements thrown in. And
and an shotgun. Yeah, I mean, it was fun, and I could watch. Was it Michelle? It wasn't Michelle Yeoh who.
Ming-Na.
Yeah, Ming-Na Wen. Like I can watch Ming-Na Wen for an hour. Yeah,
Oh, God, yeah.
I've had worse times, right? Like she's just awesome. I love watching her on screen. And I loved Coulson as a character. I loved Phil. So yeah, it had you watch that show for the characters.
Yeah.
Indeed. So where do we think WandaVision's going? And we'll probably have a wrap-up show for this in 2 or 3 weeks. But
like I said when we did this with Mandalorian, I hate to speculate, but I do have one wish, is that they keep Billy and Tommy, because those are important characters, especially Billy.
Well, so I knew when you asked that, Mike, that Jacob would say that, and I respect you a lot, Jacob.
I'm a huge fan of Young Young Avengers.
No, I mean I respect you for not speculating. That's what that takes, because that's hard. It's hard not to.
There is so much speculation on the internet about and this is how they're going to bring in the classic storyline with Mephisto, and it's like, you can speculate all you want. The writers are going to do what they want with the story.
We've got Cassie over in Ant-Man. We've got the 2 kids in this show. Like they're setting up Young Avengers. Totally here for it. I want that show. I want the Young Avengers show.
Carol Danvers has been off planet for who knows how long. She could have had a kid by now.
Well,
whose name is Teddy.
I was thinking with Secret Invasion is you could just do a Skrull who wants to be a man in the show.
Exactly.
You wouldn't get too out of the way with it for the average person to see.
That's right. That's right. Totally agree. But I don't know what they're going to do either, except that I feel like the big plot twist was bringing in Pietro.
Yeah.
Recasting Pietro was like mind-blowing moment, right? Because now we're all like, is it Pietro from the XMen universe, or is it just some schmuck that looks like him that Wanda's brainwashed to think he's Pietro?
It's a self-aware NPC based on his dialogue.
Yeah, totally. So I really want them to resolve that. We know that like Agnes is clearly important. She's the Agatha Harkness character. We're all waiting to see how that resolves. I really feel like the director guy, the sword director dude, who's kind of become the heavy since episode 5. He is Vision's enemy. He's the Vision's antagonist. He's the guy that wants to weaponize Vision and make him into maybe mass produce him, or make him into an Ultron figure, or use him to as a weapon. The real question is does Wanda have an antagonist in this show? Is this show about Wanda's grief, and the only bad guy out there is her own grief? Is she just traumatized, and this is about her dealing with that trauma? Or is there a bad person still out there somewhere manipulating things behind the scenes? I don't know. For a long time, I was sure there had to be a bad guy. But this last episode sold me on if they decide to make it just her trauma. If there is no bad guy and it's just her trauma, I think I can buy that now. And then it ends in some kind of situation where she realizes she's done wrong. Because those people that we saw in the episode, they're in real pain. The innocent people are in mental anguish. Mm-hmm. And she's going to be responsible for that if it's all her fault. If there's no bad guy, then that's all on Wanda. If there's a bad guy, they can be like, well, it would have been worse if not for Wanda, whatever. But if it's all her, well, now she has a motivation. Because if we think back to Wanda in the movies, she's never really had a real strong motivation for being an Avenger.
Yeah.
She was like, well, I helped Hydra do bad things, so now I got to do good things. Well, if she has this huge problem this huge mistake she's made, where she's mind controlled the people of this town for extended, she's going to have a real big motivation to be a hero from this point out. Mm-hmm. Will they do that? I don't know, but I'm interested to find out. I
kind of feel like they would have foreshadowed the big villain if it was someone other than the Sword Director by this point.
Yes, you're right. That structurally, you're right. So it's got to be Agnes, or like there's one way that they might be able to do this. I was thinking about this. Like if they wanted to introduce a villain, but they hadn't done it yet, they could spend a whole episode just on the villain's backstory from the own villain's point of view. And it would be a character we've seen, like Dottie or Agnes or whatever. And it's a whole episode just from Agnes's point of view. And it would be like, oh, okay. And that would have to be episode 7. And then episode 8 and 9, wrap it up. I mean, we'll find out soon. But you're right. Like, if they're going to have a big bad guy, they should have done it by now.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been a second season announced yet or confirmed. So it makes me wonder.
I don't think I would like one, but I don't think if we got one season, I would be fine with it as long as Wanda's in other things, and she is in the Doctor Strange movie.
Multiverse of Madness, yeah.
Yep, mm-hmm. Yep.
And Walter Billiard, frequent co-host, and people don't know this, but Walt actually has a great singing voice. But Walt is in our comments saying, what's up with Monica in this show? She's one of my favorites from the comics, Monica Rambeau, a.k.a. Photon. And I think they're foreshadowing her getting powers. They mentioned that her cellular structure has been changed multiple times because she keeps going in and out of, what do we call, is it the Hex?
The Hex.
The Hex.
Yes. Yeah. Thank Darcy for that.
Darcy, yeah. I could watch a show about Darcy, but I guess there is one.
There have been speculation that because of the popularity of Darcy and Agent Woo in this show, there might do a Darcy and Agent Woo spinoff.
A writer on Twitter I follow him, I've forgotten his name. He suggested doing a Woo Agents of Atlas show,
yeah, I saw that.
And he got permission from Marvel to make that pitch. He was over the moon over the weekend because he was like writing the pitch and giving it to Marvel. So I don't think there was a plan, but Woo became so popular overnight. When this show started announcing its casting, I was like, okay, you guys are just giving me too much good stuff. Like I would have watched this show just with Wanda. And then I was like, oh, and Darcy's going to be in it. I'm like, okay, I would have watched the show just about Darcy. And then Monica's in it. I'm like, okay, that's 3 shows I would have watched. Put them all in one. Yeah, totally.
Well, that's the beauty of these shows. I got into a conversation with somebody on Twitter the other day explaining how they would do in a mainline X-Men MCU movie without the standard people that you would assume would be on an X-Men, Cyclops, Jean, Logan. And I said that I would be fine if we had sort of next generation of heroes, if we were to leave them where they left them in the Fox universe and we just moved on with like an X-23 or a Rachel Gray analog, like I'd be all fine with that. And this person said that in order to sell the movie to people. But coming off of this show, I couldn't disagree more, because if you talk to somebody 5 years ago, oh, well, Jimmy Woo's really popular. Monica Rambeau, incredibly popular, unbelievable, like skyrocketed in popularity. Now people have gone from like asking for these things to demanding like Spectrum Photon show. So
Yeah.
you can really do anything, because even Guardians of the Galaxy didn't have the hugest fan base up until James Gunn movie. So I think we can go anywhere with anybody, honestly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Maybe this is Disney Plus solving HBO's Game of Thrones problem, because they're setting up more content to keep you wanting, to be tuned in. Whereas, HBO has that problem. When Game of Thrones season ends, everyone leaves and doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So it has to be Loki, right?
Loki's getting his own show.
Loki's getting his own show. But, maybe you're right.
We would have seen some hint of Loki up till now. Like,
Loki has too much of an ego to take a back seat in anything.
Well, I would even be fine without a Mephisto or another. I don't know how the Judeo-Christian symbolism literature would go over on like a show. I haven't seen Hellstrom. I don't know exactly how far they go into it with that. But
the Hellstrom show is meh. It's very meh.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's like a topic that a lot of people, mainly in America, like, I don't know how a devil would go over in any shape or form in like a TV show. So I'm fine without a Mephisto.
I'm going to agree with you. I would be shocked if Disney went with basically Marvel's reskinned version of Satan as a character in anything on Disney Plus.
I don't think Disney is the issue here. I honestly, like, have you guys have all seen Fantasia? I mean, what is the end of Fantasia if it's not the devil coming out of a mountain?
That was Uncle Walt. He can do that.
But it's a different. That's Chernobog. That's not.
Yeah, well, this wouldn't
not
be
the
devil either. They would come up with some explanation for it. But yeah, exactly. Walt's got a great point. Like, Lucifer is a very popular television show, and you're gonna
because he's sexy and evil.
Well, okay, but that's not the issue. I don't think it's not that Disney can't do Mephisto. It's that this show doesn't support Mephisto. Like, there's no evidence for Mephisto. We all want to see Mephisto in everybody.
I don't.
Like, oh, Postman is Mephisto. Okay.
I don't think it supports Mephisto or Mojo.
You're right. You're right. If Jim were here, he would be giving us his Mojo-verse take on this show, which would be phenomenal. But that's not the show we have. We have a different show.
I think that's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
So like you were saying before, Jason, I want this to be about Wanda's story, because in terms of a redemption for Avengers Disassembled or the Decimation in the comics, it has she was just in the Empire tie-in, talking about how she still feels immense guilt, and everyone on Krakoa calls her the Pretender, and they give her this horrible kind of moniker that I want her to get the redemption that she hasn't gotten in at least, I think it's coming up on 15, 16 years now.
Yeah, as a long-standing Scarlet Witch fan, ever since Bendis did Avengers Disassembled, I really felt it kind of the character has been really mistreated in the comics.
Yes.
And I'm that's not happening in the show. It's a different, like, I like the way that the people that are writing the show are inspired by the comics, but not obliged to do the comics.
We have the beauty of hindsight now.
Yeah.
This didn't go over well. We got a ton of backlash from it. Maybe don't do that.
And Wanda and Vision, one of the best things about this show is that Wanda and Vision are getting their own dedicated fans now. Like those of us that have been Scarlet Witch lovers since we were 6 have been in this small minority. Like Wanda's like a third stringer, you know, like, and I love her, but she hasn't been able to carry her own book for more than a 12-issue limited series, right?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of characters in the MCU. I mean, Iron Man, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but Iron Man had his own book for hundreds of issues, right?
Honestly, I have to blame that on her powers because a lot of people didn't understand how her powers work.
Well, because
my husband had to explain it to me, so that's fair.
And that's why they had to keep you know, making her a support character, is because the way her powers are described in the original comics, she's very much a support character because you know it's all she doesn't have these reality bending powers. She had probability manipulation.
Well,
what are the chances that your gun is full of blanks? Pretty good, because I'm here.
Now they're 100%.
What are the chances that that thing is going, that pillar is going to break over there and send all that construction equipment tumbling down on you? Pretty good now that I'm here. But
well, what's interesting about that, and you're right, that's how her powers are originally described. But over her long history, some pretty good, as well as some pretty crappy writers have tried to change her powers to make her more interesting to write. I'm a big fan, for example, of Kurt Busiek's Chaos Magic take on.
Don't get me started on what Kurt Busiek did with her.
But setting that aside for a minute, what's interesting is the phenomenon itself. The fact that because Wanda wasn't part of popular culture like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man is,
or a triathlon or a Jack of Hearts.
I'm talking about the people that are big name characters. Like
Wonder
because
Man.
she wasn't part of that phenomenon, her powers could change, and readers just took it in stride. Like if everyone kind of knows what Superman's powers are, right? Like pretty much. And so if suddenly he can like pull a cellophane giant S off his chest and throw it around the bad guy, you know, like we're all like, that's not right. Like Superman can't do that shit, right? What this show is doing is it's creating Wanda and Vision are becoming popular enough that their powers are going to get set in the film. In their first early films, Wanda's powers slide all over the place, right? Like in
telepathy, telekinesis.
Yeah, in Ultron, she's like, okay, you've got telekinesis, but you can also you can also mind control people and make them evil. She never does that. She hasn't done that since this show again. You know, anyway, her powers are kind of sliding all over. But this show is going to codify them in the films, in the shows, which might bleed over and finally codify her powers in the comics in a way that makes them a little bit more stable. I don't know.
I have a prediction.
What's that?
The big villain is Star Fox.
Well, don't do Star Fox.
Star Fox is problematic in this day and age.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Maybe it can be Dr. Druid or Wonder Man then. Evan.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, we need to talk about the Weeknight Hero podcast that you're doing on Podbeam, which is also
shout out.
Oh, hey, you got it right there on your shirt. That's good.
The only merch that was ever made as a gift for me.
Man, I've been doing this podcast for 10 years. I don't have merch, man. You're ahead of me.
You have to make merch for yourself. This is something I've discovered, Mike.
Oh yeah, my friend made it for me, and he recommended it.
Nice.
Well, that is cool. So you are Mutants and Mastermind actual play podcast. Do I have that right?
Yes. So I feel like there isn't too much more that goes into it. During these times, I know that the popularity of sit down at your table with either friends or get on Skype with people is never bigger than ever. I know tons of people play D&D. It's what inspired me to start the podcast fairly recently. Mutants and Masterminds is superhero Dungeons and Dragons. It hasn't had quite the popularity that Dungeons and Dragons has. Not a lot of tabletop RPGs do, but I thought I would put it out there because just talking to friends, explaining what I'm doing this afternoon gets people interested. And I feel like tabletop games can be an expression for anybody. Anybody can do it, honestly. Your 6-year-old daughter can do it. Your 70-year-old grandma can do it. People love to play roles and play games, and that's the reason why I do it. So I do it with my family members who live incredibly close to me. So it makes it a lot easier to set things up. And so we just created the superheroes that we would like to see. And I know we've been talking at length today about characters that don't get the spotlight and don't get honestly what they deserve, despite how interesting or popular they can become. So this is just the easiest way to do it. I know if people are ever worried about not feeling like seen in a narrative, you can make an entire story detailing how you look at the world and how you feel about the world. And it's the beauty of the game. People have been talking to me about getting into it, and I just really think people should too. So I wanted to get the word out there.
All right, cool. And that's, I couldn't ask for a more heartfelt and sincere endorsement of role playing as a, meaningful recreation there. Thank you, sir. So weeknighthero.podbeam.com.
Yes.
Are you also on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook?
I'm getting the YouTube started pretty soon, just because I wanted a visual element to it. And I've also have gotten feedback that I have a blog. People like sound a lot more than word, and so I've gotten a couple of people who wanted me to do essentially taking my blog posts and putting them into YouTube videos. So I'll get that started pretty soon. Everything will be run off of my Twitter, which is at Weeknight H. Somebody already has Weeknight Hero, and they haven't used it in, I think, 5 or 6 years. So I can't get them to let it go. But at Weeknight H is where I'm posting all of my content.
All right, cool. Let me put that up on the screen here. Hang on just a second. So cool. It's odd how popular audio is. I wouldn't have guessed it, but I mean, there's on Audible and even just people doing, like you said, Audible content over YouTube.
It lets people assimilate information while they're working on other things. I listen to podcasts and videos and all that sort of thing while I'm drawing all day.
I listened to the interview you did with Modifius and Dune while making food the other day. So I was cooking dinner and I was able to hear it. So
yeah, that was Jason actually on that show.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening.
I love Dune.
Yeah.
We do have listeners sometimes, Jason.
And Mutants Mastermind is a phenomenal game too, by the way. I'm glad that you picked it. It's a great game.
My favorite.
I love it.
Did you know that Jacob actually writes material for Mutants and Masterminds?
I didn't know that, but I am now incredibly intrigued because that's what I have started doing in some limited form or fashion. And I'm just bumbling in the dark. So if you have any tips.
If you want to see what I've done, check out the Superpowered Legends series and the Superpowered Bestiary. Those are my 2 biggest products.
I will. I'm going to start that.
Yeah, those are from Rogue Genius Games. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
Jacob, who's your Scarlet Witch and Vision analogs in
Vision is the Synthezoid Paradigm.
Okay.
And Scarlet Witch her name is Violet.
Okay.
Are they on the same product together?
No, they are on separate products. Violet was on a product with her twin brother Mercury.
Yeah.
And Paradigm is his own PDF.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Oh,
isn't it fun coming up with similar but not exact names so people can know what you're talking about? But
that's the whole point of the Superpowered Legends, because Green Ronin did DC characters when they premiered 3rd edition. I took all my Marvel write-ups and I made them as true to form as I could. This is how you make the paradigm here is how you make a desolidifying, density increasing robot hero.
Yeah.
I also have, a patriotic shield throwing hero or a spider bitten web slinging hero. I was trying to do Marvel with all the serial numbers filed off. And I keep every single time I release a product, people are like, this is just that character. And I'm like, uh-huh. That's the point.
That honestly, that's what people want.
Yeah.
I have a character whose name is Count Cumulon Nimbus that I just released for free, and he has a suit that makes weather. So it's not it's not Weather Wizard. It's different. He has a suit.
That's cool.
Cumulonimbus. I love it.
I love it. Yeah, that's a great name.
Yeah, it's if anything, I can come up with a solid name.
Hey,
Back
Jacob.
in my old BAMF game, our Scarlet Witch and the Vision were the Crimson Conjuress and the Spectre.
Ooh,
Very nice.
Perfect.
You did it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Well, I think our three main players are they're analog. So tell me if you can pick it up. My husband wears red, and he focuses on controlling entropy, and so it's a quasi magical power. And my sister is a telepath, telekinetic, with immense power, immeasurable power that she hasn't even begun to tap into yet.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I am so jealous that you can play with your family because, well, my mom's a munchkin. There's just this, it should be min-maxing right out of the gate. And
well, well, it's harder times with my brother-in-law, but we make do.
all right, cool. Well, hey, I will get the links for your blog and your Twitter and your podcast all in the show notes.
Thank you.
And I am getting pinged from the wife that I need to go upstairs and attend to husbandly duties. So, speaking of family, should probably wrap things up. Evan, it was great to have you. So I'd like to have you back sometime.
Of course. This is my favorite thing to talk about, and I'm like holding it back because I want to just put it out there. But yep, I'm always happy to be back because I feel like there's tons of things I would like to talk about in some of the interviews that you've done.
I'm right there with you. Superhero chat, just talking about the worlds, the characters. That's something I can do all day.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, hey, any closing thoughts before we wrap things up?
Thanks for having me on.
Please
Having me on.
join the BAMF Podcast Patreon if you enjoy content like this.
There you go. Good plug.
And we'll get some swag soon. I promise. Even if I have to make it myself.
a T-shirt, man. Like, come on.
It's not that. It's 20 minutes on Redbubble.
Put the BAMF logo on some T-shirts and some hats or masks that people can wear, and you'll make money. You'll make money slowly, but you will make money.
Really slowly. You can retire in that long tail money, though. Let me tell you. All right. So, final prediction: the big bad is either Moondragon or Cersei. I'm sticking with it, and
maybe Nightmare.
Maybe Nightmare. You're welcome, Walt. It's always a pleasure to have you on, sir. I thought you were working tonight. I thought you were busy meeting the alcohol distribution needs of New England during this, fierce cold. I didn't want to take you away from that. Oh, Jacob, Walt was asking if you can 3D print your character from our actual play on Monday. Your Torgu, your little space goblin.
Oh,
but that's official Paizo merch, though, right?
Okay. Goblins in space are not exclusive to Paizo. It's only if they look like football-headed, gremlin-eared, green-skinned goblins from space. If you make them look like anything else, if you don't have them with a football head, just a regular head, and pointed ears or whatever, you can do whatever you want as long as they look exactly like Paizo space goblins.
You have to file the serial numbers off.
Exactly. Walt, I'm trying. You 3D printed him already? I need to have you on the podcast to explain this to me, Walt. We need to have a show just about 3D printing because I don't understand how you're already printing Jacob's character from our game just 2 days ago. Well, what madness is this?
Torgu is very popular.
Torgu is very popular. He's like Homestar Runner in the 90s, man. You don't even know. All right. Anyway, on that lame half-ass joke, we're going to call it a podcast. Evan, Jason, Jacob, thank you guys for coming out. To all our viewers and listeners, thanks for checking out the BAMF podcast. Endorse our Patreon. It'll make you more popular with everyone. Cool people.
Whoever you want to romance.
Whoever, exactly. And we'll catch you next time. And Walt, thanks for hanging out, dude. Appreciate that. We'll catch you next time.